He's one of the most polarizing figures in basketball, always playing with fire, a fierce competitor, and often a lightning rod for both praise and criticism. Russell Westbrook, a name that elicits passion from both fans and critics alike. But when you look past the triple-doubles, the flashy highlights, and the moments of sheer brilliance, there's something deeper about Westbrook's game that can't be ignored: his leadership. But here's the catch: his leadership style is not as straightforward as it might seem. For some, he's the heart and soul of every team he plays for, inspiring with raw energy and determination. For others, his approach can feel too much, too intense, too chaotic, too unpredictable. So, is Russell Westbrook's leadership a force for good, or is it actually a double-edged sword, helping some teams while hurting others? Let's take a deep dive into the leadership style of one of the most unique figures in NBA history, and why it's both a blessing and a curse. The early years, the making of a leader. Westbrook's rise to prominence in the NBA wasn't by accident. Drafted by the Oklahoma City Thunder in 2008, his raw athleticism, explosive energy, and unrelenting drive quickly set him apart. But there was something else about Westbrook that grabbed attention: his intensity. From day one, he wasn't just trying to be a good player, he was trying to win every single moment, every single possession. He didn't just want to play, he wanted to dominate. By the time he became the face of the Thunder after the departure of Kevin Durant, Westbrook had transformed into an undeniable leader. His incredible work ethic and passion for the game rubbed off on his teammates. But there's a fine line between inspiring others and driving them to the edge. Westbrook's leadership style is the kind that pushes you to give everything, but sometimes it feels like too much. As Westbrook led the Thunder, his aggressive, fiery nature was both motivating and exhausting. He demanded the best from his teammates, but that level of intensity sometimes clashed with others who weren't on the same wavelength. That's where the double-edged sword comes in. Triple-doubles and leadership, a blessing or a burden. There's no denying that Russell Westbrook's stats are legendary. Triple-doubles became his trademark, a feat no one thought possible until he made it a regular part of his game. His 2017-18 MVP season, where he averaged a triple-double for the second year in a row, was historic. But while Westbrook's individual brilliance was awe-inspiring, the question remained: was his leadership helping the Thunder win championships, or was it holding them back? His relentless pursuit of triple-doubles meant that he often took over games with his scoring, playmaking, and rebounding, but it also meant that he could sometimes be overbearing with the ball in his hands. His decision-making, often impulsive, could create friction with teammates who felt sidelined or unappreciated. There were moments where his leadership felt more like a dictatorship, as if the entire team was revolving around Westbrook's will. Think about it: when you're the most dominant force on the floor, there's a fine line between leading and controlling. Some teammates thrived under his intensity. Guys like Steven Adams and Enes Kanter fed off his energy, while others, like Carmelo Anthony and Paul George, found themselves struggling to adjust to his style of play. That's the tricky part about Westbrook. His leadership is as influential as it is polarizing. The trade to the Houston Rockets. New team, same leadership challenge. In 2019, the Thunder traded Westbrook to the Houston Rockets, where he would team up with James Harden. The hope was that the two stars, both explosive players in their own right, could form a dynamic duo that would challenge the Golden State Warriors' dominance. But again, the question arose: could Westbrook's leadership mesh with Harden's more subdued, ball-dominant style? On paper, this should have been a match made in basketball heaven, but in reality, it was a difficult transition. Westbrook's desire to dominate the game and his high-energy leadership often clashed with Harden's methodical approach. It didn't help that Westbrook's inability to consistently shoot from the outside left him less effective in certain offensive schemes. Despite his undeniable talent, he had a hard time adjusting to playing with another star who, much like him, wanted to lead in their own way. Westbrook's leadership style was again called into question, as his intense drive to win at all costs didn't always align with what the Rockets needed in the heat of their playoff battles. Despite his electrifying play, Houston was once again left short of a championship, and Westbrook was ultimately traded to the Washington Wizards. The Washington Wizards, a new beginning, same leadership issues. When Westbrook was traded to the Washington Wizards in 2020, it marked the next chapter in his leadership journey. This time, he was paired with Bradley Beal, a younger, quieter star who had been carrying the load for Washington for years. Would this be the moment where Westbrook finally found harmony in his leadership role? In many ways, it was. The Wizards weren't expected to contend for championships, but Westbrook's leadership helped propel them to the playoffs in 2021. However, there were still challenges. The same intensity that fueled his success also led to tension within the locker room. Westbrook was still the alpha dog, still demanding the best from everyone, but at times it felt like the team couldn't fully buy into his vision. Westbrook was often criticized for being overly emotional, particularly in high-pressure moments. His on-court frustration could lead to inconsistent performances, and that trickled down to the rest of the team. Leadership, after all, is about keeping your cool when it matters most. Westbrook, for all his brilliance, often let his emotions spill over, whether in a fiery outburst after a missed shot or on social media after a loss. The leadership dilemma: is it a double-edged sword? So what's the real story behind Russell Westbrook's leadership? Is it a blessing or a curse? On the one hand, Westbrook's leadership can be incredibly inspiring. His intensity, his passion, his drive to be the best. It motivates his teammates to work harder, to be more aggressive, and to never give up. There's a certain infectious quality to his leadership, a sense of urgency that pushes players to elevate their game. In some cases, like his earlier years with the Thunder, his leadership brought out the best in his teammates, and they flourished alongside him. But, on the other hand, that same intensity can become a burden. Westbrook's fiery nature and sometimes erratic decision-making can lead to tension, both with teammates and coaches. His style can be perceived as controlling or even disruptive, especially in a team with multiple strong personalities. And as we've seen in his past teams, this can sometimes result in the fractures within the locker room, or worse, underperformance on the court. Leadership is about balance. Knowing when to push, when to pull back, and when to trust your teammates. Westbrook, for all his incredible talent, has yet to find that perfect balance, making his leadership both a gift and a double-edged sword. The takeaway is Westbrook the leader we need. So where does that leave Russell Westbrook? He's a player with unmatched talent, a leader with unparalleled intensity, and a figure whose legacy will forever be linked to the highs and lows of his leadership style. The question isn't whether Westbrook can lead, it's how he leads that makes all the difference. For some teams, he'll be the spark that they need to get over the hump. For others, he might be the storm that disrupts the balance. But one thing is for sure, Westbrook's leadership is never boring. What do you think? Does Russell Westbrook's style of leadership bring out the best in his teams, or does it hold them back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm curious to hear where you stand on this one. Conclusion: this script dives deep into the complexity of Russell Westbrook's leadership style, drawing on real-life examples from his career to explore how his intensity can both inspire and cause tension. It balances the highs of his energy and passion with the lows of his sometimes erratic leadership, ultimately posing the question of whether Westbrook is the kind of leader every team needs. The script keeps the audience engaged by showcasing Westbrook's emotional and competitive side, making it clear that his leadership is a true double-edged sword.